Check. Mr. Toiber, are you
I'm
with
here.
us? We're just
Yes,
testing.
sir.
Okay, we got you. Just stay on hold and we'll start here shortly.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're ready to begin this evening's special board meeting. The special board meeting of September 15, 2015 is now called to order. The time is 6:02 p.m. At this time, we request that all electronic devices be turned off or put in the silent mode. We would like to take this opportunity to remind the members of the public of the district's mission, which is to ensure that each student reaches his or her highest personal potential and the district's vision to be a world-class school system. Mr. Toiber will be joining us by phone this evening, and I would also like to announce that after this evening's meeting, assuming the action items are approved, there will be a brief swearing-in ceremony for Dr. Greg Adkins, so please feel free to stay and join us. This evening's agenda includes public comment and 2 attorneys' recommendations, one of which is good cause. Mr. Martin, please provide an explanation for the good cause item.
The good cause item this evening is to authorize the use of Dr. Graham's signature for banking transactions until such time as a facsimile can be obtained for the new superintendent's signature. It's important, of course, that the board be able to take such transactions in the interim, so that's why it needs to come forward this evening.
Okay, thank you. I find there is a good cause to add this item to the agenda. Board members, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
All right, I'll start down here. Mrs. Fisher
So moved.
and Mrs. Dozier. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. Motion passes 4-0. The next item on the agenda is public comment. Mr. Martin, would you please address the agenda item of public comment?
School board policy provides the opportunity at this point in the meeting to address the board concerning any matter on this meeting's agenda or any other matter relevant to the operation of the school district. If you completed a card and submitted that to me before the meeting began, you'll be called in the order of the cards submitted. If you did not submit a card but still wish to address the school board this evening, the school board chair, Ms. Morgan, will give you an opportunity in a moment to express that desire. The rules concerning public comment are posted at the back of the room. The board does not respond during public comment time to remarks made by speakers. At the conclusion of public comment time, the school board chair may address concerns raised by speakers. The time allowed per speaker is 3 minutes. Ms. Morgan, I have 2 cards this evening.
Is there anybody on the right side of the auditorium who did not fill out a card and wishes to speak? Starting in the front row. Second row. Anybody else? Anybody on the right side of the auditorium who did not fill out a card? Please give me your name.
This girl right here in the front wants to speak. Go get her.
sorry? Lisa Cohen, thank you.
You have one more there.
She didn't realize which slide you were speaking to.
Oh, I'm
This young
sorry.
lady.
Jennifer Long. Thank you. Did I miss anybody else? Okay, Mr. Martin, would you please call the first card?
Mr. Don Armstrong.
Good afternoon. For the record, my name's Don Armstrong. This afternoon, I sat here and listened to the board workshop. And as a proud parent, I try to stay very heavily involved in what the board does as superintendent, because my kid's education depends on this. Well, when I left here, I have some friends that are still board members throughout the state, and I made a phone call talking to them and started explaining to them, we're going to appoint a superintendent for the next 30 days, then appoint an intern superintendent for the next 6 to 8 months, and then start a national search. And they started laughing hysterically. I said, what's so funny? We've never heard anybody do such a thing. We're going to be a laughing stock? It's not the way from what I've ever seen, anybody does business. I don't think this board's ever done business that way either. I understand we need an intern superintendent, but we need stability for long term. Now, the other thing I did hear the board talk about is our superintendent now has mentioned that she's ready to go. Now, I heard a couple board members discuss that. Well, if that's the case, I understand that, and I'm sure each one of you do, and I respect her for wanting to leave now. But I also remind the board that then we're going to still pay her out through December when she's already made the initial comment she's ready to go now. It's still the taxpayers' money, every dime of it. So I would hope you guys would take that in consideration as well. Thank you for your time.
Mr. George Fox.
Thank you. I also attended the workshop today, and I'm not a proponent of going nationwide for search for a superintendent. I think would be much better hiring from inside. I do. I think it's the knowledge of the local terrain is very, very important. And Lee County is always such a little small town. For so many years when I was growing up, it's become a big time town, and it's a good destination. And there's plenty of candidates in this district who are good. And Dr. Atkins, I think everyone agrees, is very good. I know my wife called from her school, and everyone over there seemed to like the idea of him taking over. I don't think you should search for an interim. If the board decides to go for a full-time superintendent sometime next year, then that's its will, then that's the way it is. But I think the interim, you're not going to find somebody to come in here and change. He's right. Don was right for once, and on that. But the main issue, and which is my driving issue, is the underlying debt that's causing all this problem. This is the third superintendent that made it 2 years and gone. There's deeper problems than just somebody who has to deal with a bullying case or somebody cheating. Those things are going to happen to Dr. Atkins and whoever else is here. They're going to happen. But the $523 million in obligations, 408 principal and the rest in interest, is eating away at everything Dr. Graham tried to do, everything the board has tried to do, everything everybody in the school district has tried to do. And yes, Mr. Teuber and Mrs. Dozier, you two are highly responsible for the size of that debt. You've been here a long, long time, done nothing. People out there complain about the amount of land that's owned by the district. You were here when it was bought. They complain about the number of school buses. You've been here while those routes were created. They don't like Common Core. You were here when that was implemented. They don't like testing. Do something. Do something about it. The debt is one thing you can do, and this is a good chance for the board to admit that it's made mistakes, and the debt is a problem. And while you're changing superintendents, you also want to get that debt off the balance sheet and open up $51 million, which would come in kind of handy around here, as we all know. Okay? Resolve to solve the problem. Don't just talk about it, Ms. Dozier. Do it. You say publicly, I'm for the sales tax, but it won't pass. Well, you won't work for it. You got to work for it. That's what it is. Every single teacher out there works their tail off every single day, 60, 70 hours a week. Okay? It's more than just making policy and throwing some opinions out there that have authority. It's called hard work. And you too, Mr. Toiber, I hope you recover and get out there and work and get this district's finances back in the shape that it's supposed to be in. There is absolutely no...
Mr. Fox, your time's up, sir.
Chris Quackenbush.
Thank you, Board. As an experienced business owner, I can tell you that firing someone is a really tough job, especially somebody you like personally, possibly. It's hard to do. It's often done well after it should be done, and such is the case here. Though you didn't fire her, she resigned. There are those who still grapple with personal feelings rather than prudently examining the facts as they should. So let's be prudent and look at the facts. Her evaluations by this board have been deplorable, but no action was taken. We had a 2-year investigation by the United States Department of Education and the Office of Civil Rights, which resulted in severe penalties to our district, costing the taxpayers money and making sure that all of our administrative staff, 12,000 people almost, are going to have to be retrained on retaliation because it was so prevalent in this administration. She resigned in the middle of a serious investigation of her role in the cheating scandal at Dunbar Community School, and there's several other shoes about to drop. Now we have stopped this investigation, and unfortunately, this denies the victims of her activities justice. And I'd like to make sure that you keep this in the top of your mind. How are we going to get justice for those who have been wronged by the retaliation of teachers as well as administrators on students and their families? I'm not clear from this afternoon's meeting, which I attended, on exactly how we are going to come to a conclusion with regard to that. And those people need justice. The board has the duty of selecting and managing the efforts of the superintendent, who's supposed to carry out the policies. It also has the constitutional responsibility and authority for what our children are learning. This is why I decided to run. Members of the board who failed to take action on both of these issues have failed the public trust and must be held accountable for the results. I implore this board to recognize our district requires action to restore justice and deliver a good education to our children. Let's not lose sight of the main thing we're here for. Nancy Graham should have been immediately removed from her office, and records should have been sealed. Justice should have been administered for her actions. Be careful and thorough about who you select as the interim. And then, of course, we applaud the idea of going to a national and professional search for a replacement of a superintendent. We're in the 33rd largest district in the country. It's important, and we're spending $1.3 billion annually. We really need to demand and pay for the leadership to make our community proud and prosperous. Thank you.
Lori Fahey.
Hi, I'm Lori Fahey. I want to thank you all for your work you put in today for the workshop. I know it was very difficult, and we're looking forward to having a interim and then doing a national search for our next superintendent. From the teachers, I also want to thank Mrs. Dozier for listening and helping the teachers with the pay issue they had over this holiday weekend. it's something that shouldn't happen. And I understand that they also received a little less in this pay period than they should. So hopefully they can still get that straightened out. I am a little concerned with the investigations going on, that we have chosen someone to fill the spot of the superintendent in the meantime, but I do trust that you will make a choice on a permanent interim in the next couple weeks. Thank you.
Bob Valenta.
I'm troubled by some people's comments in the media and social media that we're a personal agenda circus. It's troubling that those comments by the TALC president clearly shows his disdain for the public's opinion. What's ironic is that the union is so troubled by we the people who are here to protect the students, teachers, and district. If by personal agenda you mean that we take bullying and retaliation of our students, parents, and teachers by this administration, yes, we take it personal. But why would the TALC president not want to protect the students and teachers? Wouldn't he want to protect his own children and the teachers that he represents? Or does he only represent the same people in this administration who are guilty of retaliation by the federal investigation, not by me? With that said, I feel it is wholly inappropriate to have a placeholder or interim of the interim from the current administration, by Mr. Martin's own words, that there are other employees who are implicated in the partially completed investigation. No one from this current administration can be considered for the position of interim or even a placeholder. The community will not stand for it. Several names have been discussed by members of the Lee County Citizens Education Action Committee, but Mr. Santini's name seems to come up the most. I can't speak for every member, but he would be my personal pick. Also, nothing is being said about the retaliation training which has been mandated by the federal government, which requires every one of the 12,000 employees to have completed by October 15th. The plan hasn't even been submitted to the feds, which is due now. Thank you.
Mary Orthodox Sue.
First of all, thank you for throwing me out, Miss Morgan, last week. Yeah. But you should have made sure you were in your legal rights to do so. Yeah? You weren't. We'll deal with that. Now, we know the corruption that's going on. When I made the statement that somebody's going to go out in handcuffs with Miss Graham, I was talking about you, Miss Morgan. We have the proof just how much you were involved in that. You can make all the faces you want. There will be a criminal investigation. I am against Mr. Atkins being placed up here as part of the administration team under Dr. Graham. There is a lot more going on here that's still to come out. And I'm telling you, there is going to be a federal criminal investigation of this board, because members on this board had their hands right in the mix with Perez. You can hang your head, Miss Morgan. You know you're as dirty as sin.
Kevin Riegel. And if you keep talking, you'll be out of here again.
Excuse me, but she's talking. Let me hear you say something to her.
I didn't see her talk.
Well, then make sure you have your...
This is a warning. Mr. Riegel.
Good evening. Hello, board members, Mr. Martin and Ms. Johnson, Mrs. Johnson, sorry. Just wanted to, first of all, say good evening, and I know it's been a long day for everybody. Thank you for the work you all put in. A couple of thoughts based on what's been said here, and of course, I've come up here a lot, and I talk about many issues that I know many of you struggle with on a daily basis and a weekly basis, and you hear it all the time because you've been doing this a lot longer in Lee County than I have. So for that, I thank you. One of the things that is struggled with often is, what do you do with administration, teachers? Do they deserve a second or a third chance? And I know we've all discussed it. You know, what do we do in those respects? And everybody has their own opinions. Everybody has their own friends. Everybody tries to get everybody moving in the same direction and in the right way for the good of the school district. One of the things from the outside looking in, which I have the perspective of, is being a teacher down at the lower level that we see, is the fact that teachers will get reprimanded and let go immediately. There really isn't a second chance, so to speak. There's a process. And those, as you go higher up the ladder, get the second, third, fourth, fifth, 10th chances, which is why we have respectfully brought this up. And it's not to point at anybody or attack anybody, it's to bring these issues forward. Because what happens is you can replace the superintendent, but unless you replace the people that have actually committed these unethical acts, you're not really solving the problem. And how do you do that? That's a question I know we all weigh in. So, you know, people ask me all the time, well, what would you do, Mr. Riegel? You were an administrator in the past. And, you know, I go back to what is Lee County policy? You know, I understand everybody wants everybody to succeed. However, do we allow that at the expense of children, at the expense of teachers, at the expense, you know, at what point does it cost so much money in lawsuits and money paid out that you just say, boy, we can't keep doing the same thing over and over. We need a different direction. And I mean, I respectfully disagree, and if Pam wants to see it, I have some new information, but today's not the day to show it. I have some information that, as I'm asked all the time, well, you don't know what we have. Well, I do, and I have something different to finally show Pam that every time she says, well, you don't know the other side of the story, that's because it was being covered up, and now I have the other side of the story. So, we need to address all these issues with these people. We need to make sure that they start going and packing up.
Thank you, Mr. Riegel.
Thank you.
Time's up, sir.
Lisa Giovanelli.
Good evening, Board. I just want to thank everybody for their hard work today, and I have faith in the Board, and I'm going to support them until I see something different. So I support Mr. Atkins today, and I want you to know that until I see something go bad, I fully support this Board. And it's time to get this, you know, it's time to have a good year. So I hope that making these decisions today, I know it was hard and y'all worked hard at it, and I really appreciate the fact that you did, and that's really important. So thank you.
Lisa Cohen.
I'd like to thank the board for everything that they've done today. I did watch the meeting on the YouTube. I was a little busy at home. But I wanted to let you guys know I brought my motivation with me today. And I know we've all been very hard on this board. But this is the reason why we're so hard on this board. This is our future. And we've seen a lot of corruption for our possible futures. And this all started before I even got pregnant. And now that he's here, I've never felt love like this before. And as angry as I could get before, I can get so much more angry now, because I'm going to protect him from any more corruption that comes from this board or a possible interim or an interims of the interims superintendent. I don't want to see this happen again. I'd rather see us take our time and make the right decision instead of replacing a superintendent one for every year. This is insane. When I think about how many times this group of people has stood before everybody and begged you and pleaded with you to terminate her, then when her contract came back up, she must have known that she had no intentions of fulfilling that contract. Because within 1 month of that contract, which was never discussed on this board, which I was so disappointed in, then she resigns for retirement. And now doesn't even want to finish that out, nor do I think she should have finished that out. She should have been terminated. She never should have had the opportunity to resign. That's all I have to say. This is my motivation.
Jennifer Long.
Good evening, Board. Thank you for your service in the workshop today. And I have to say that the end results are deemed favorably. However, I think that they're very long in coming. Having worked for the state of Florida myself, during the course of any investigation, an employee should not have access to records or even possibly be on the premises. Mr. Toiber, every sentence in the news press article today, I agreed with, spot on. Ms. Dozier as well. At this point, I'm a little conflicted with replacing, someone with an interim, but I am on board with a national search because I am concerned. I think there needs to be some cleaning house. I'm a little concerned that the legacy of what we had with Ms. Graham would continue with someone maybe on the inside of the school board. Therefore, a national search probably would be the best determination. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Martin, would you please read your recommendation?
Yes, Ms. Morgan, board members, the first recommendation, based upon the school board's discussion this afternoon, at which you came to agreement with respect to appointment of a new superintendent, I recommend that you take that action this evening.
Thank you. Would someone like to make a motion?
Sure. I move that we appoint Dr. Greg Atkins superintendent effective 9/16/15.
Is there seconded by Mrs. Fisher. Board members.
Mr. Toiber got it out sooner.
Oh, okay. Board members, is there any discussion on the attorney's recommendation? Mr. Toiber?
Nope.
Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Motion passes 4-0.
5.
I'm sorry, 5-0. Thank you. Second item, good cause.
So I recommend board approval to authorize continued use of Dr. Nancy J. Graham's signature, in addition to the board chairman, to sign checks on the listed school board bank accounts until a new facsimile is received for the new superintendent.
You've heard the attorney's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Fisher,
Second.
seconded by Ms. LaRiviere. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Board member comments. Mrs. Fisher.
I just want to say that I'm glad at this point that we are in the mode of moving forward and staying on course academically and programmatically in this district. And I hope that we will have the fortitude, the strength, and the input from the community that we need to make future decisions. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mrs. Dozier.
Thank you. I would also like to offer congratulations on the interim before you become the interim. And then I look forward to the work that the board is going to do in the next couple of months. I would also like to ask a question of Mr. Martin. Mr. Martin, Dr. Graham is still employed, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. At this point, she's employed until December 21st.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank all of the community members that have contacted me personally. I want to thank everyone that has phoned me, that has sent an email to me and has reached out. And I want to thank all of those individuals that came forward and offered their skills and offered themselves to come forth and serve this district. I know that it's been, there's been a lot of things that have been said about this board, and it's really hard to take stuff when you're public, when you're in a public light, and you can't, a lot of times you can't say anything back, and a lot of times you're restrained from saying everything you want to say. But the one thing that I can say is that we have a lot of very good employees here. We have some of the best teachers that you will find anywhere. We have some outstanding administrators. We have some of the most dedicated support staff that you will ever find anywhere. I would put them up against anyone, anywhere in the United States. We have the potential to be a world-class school district. And I hope that this board can come together, and I hope that we can demonstrate that we have the skills that it takes to put a top-notch CEO in place that can lead this district into the future and lead us to being a world-class school system. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Teuber.
No, I think, thank you, Madam Chair. I think Ms. Dozier wrapped it up very succinctly, and I am just excited to see that we're moving forward in a positive direction.
Thank you, Ms. LaRiviere.
I too, Dr. Atkins, it will be a pleasure meeting with you for breakfast on Monday morning. So when we have our weekly meetings, my schedule always winds up being a breakfast or during lunchtime, so we wind up eating. So we will eat and chat and talk. And I too appreciate, this has been one busy, my fingers are already battling arthritis. I've been typing back responses to emails this weekend, as all of you have. Been on the phone with people at home, on my cell, and I just really appreciate everyone who has reached out, sharing their thoughts, hearing people from the community that are ready and willing to step forward and want to be part of the process as we go about doing a national search. And I'm looking forward to that. I believe we are moving in a positive direction, and exciting and wonderful things are going to happen. And that's my focus now. I have one request for clarification, Mr. Martin. It's my understanding that the OCR plan is to be submitted by September 30th. Is that correct?
Sorry, I don't have that information with me right now. I'll be happy to check that and be sure that the
I
board
believe
gets
that's when the
information on
due
that
date,
tomorrow.
I believe that's when the due date is, the best of my recollection, and I believe it's on target to go. So I believe all those components are in place, and I thought that all of that had been distributed to us, but may be my error. So I look forward to seeing how that's going to be implemented and where we go from here. And thank you for being here. And yeah, that's all.
Well, first of all, say welcome Dr. Atkins to the governance team. It'll be a pleasure to work with you. And I really can't say anything more than what my colleagues have said. I simply want to thank my colleagues for the work this afternoon. I thought it was a very good workshop. I think it represented the kind of people we are and the kind of work we try to do for in the best interest of the kids for the district. And so I think compliments all around. I do have a little bit of business. Board members, do we want to cancel the special meeting scheduled for Friday, September 18th at 9 a.m.?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Teuber?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So that's the direction of the board. And student advisory, we do not have a date set. We're not doing September.
We're not doing September.
Correct. And so we need to, Mrs. Johnson, did you have an opportunity to look at calendars? No? Okay. Well, then we'll leave that in Ms. Johnson's hands, and she'll be contacting everybody on the board to figure out when we can schedule something in October. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I just wanted to say, I think we still needed to continue the conversation about allowing for applications by
Yes.
more students so that more schools can be represented. And we wanted to approve an online application. So should we bring that forward for Tuesday's board meeting?
Okay,
Okay.
Sounds good.
it's a plan. All right, Mr. Martin, do you have any comments?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to say that our next scheduled board meeting is September 22nd, 2 p.m., and at the conclusion of this meeting, there will be a swearing-in for Dr. Greg Atkins. Thank you very much.
Please raise your hand and repeat after me. I, Gregory K. Atkins,
I, Gregory K. Atkins,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government
the Constitution and government
of the United States and of the state of Florida,
of the United States and the state of Florida.
that I am duly qualified to hold office
I am duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state.
and that I will well and faithfully perform
I will well and faithfully perform
the duties of the superintendent of schools
the duties of the superintendent of schools
on which I am now about to enter.
on which I'm now about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Dr. Atkins.
Thank you.
Congratulations. I would have been staying out there, but and I'll do anything I can for you.
Thank you.
I'm not going to speak with anybody.
Sure.